Imagine this. An incoming presidential administration has vowed to crack down on undocumented immigrants, and their strategy includes targeting not just migrants, but mayors of cities deemed sanctuaries for immigrants. Yes, you read that right, mayors. The man spearheading this effort? Tom Homan, a former police officer and former acting head of Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, under the Obama administration. Homan's rhetoric is heated, threatening to prosecute officials in sanctuary cities for allegedly obstructing federal immigration enforcement. But here's the question. Can he actually do it? In this video, we'll break down the claims, the legal realities, and the political motivations behind this move. Sanctuary cities have long been a target for anti-immigrant sentiment, with Donald Trump weaponizing the concept to fuel his campaign narrative. But what are sanctuary cities really? Are they breaking the law, or is this just another attempt to stir controversy and fear? Most importantly, does Homan and the Trump administration even have the authority to follow through on these threats? Let's dive deep into the facts, the myths, and the broader implications of this debate. Who is Tom Homan, and why is he leading this charge? To understand the current rhetoric around sanctuary cities, we first need to understand Tom Homan. Homan is a career law enforcement officer who served as the head of ICE during President Obama's administration. Known for his tough-on-immigration stance, Homan earned praise from conservatives and scorn from immigration advocates for overseeing record numbers of deportations. Now, under Donald Trump, Homan has taken on a new role as the face of Trump's immigration enforcement agenda. Recently, he's made bold claims that he will pursue criminal charges against mayors of sanctuary cities. Homan has referenced specific federal laws, such as 8 U.S.C. Section 1324, harboring undocumented immigrants, and 18 U.S.C. Section 111, impeding federal law enforcement, to back up his threats. But is there any legal basis for this? What are sanctuary cities? The real story. Before we assess the legality of Homan's threats, let's clarify what a sanctuary city is. Contrary to popular belief, there is no universal definition of a sanctuary city. The term has been politicized to conjure images of lawless cities actively harboring criminals, but the reality is far more nuanced. Sanctuary policies generally fall into three broad categories. Noncompliance with ICE detainers. Local police may decline to hold individuals past their release date based on a request from ICE, unless there's a valid warrant. Limits on police cooperation. Local law enforcement may restrict sharing information about individuals' immigration status with federal authorities. Non-participation in federal immigration enforcement. Local governments may refuse to deputize their police as immigration enforcers. These policies are designed not to protect criminals, but to foster trust between immigrant communities and local law enforcement. When undocumented individuals fear deportation, they are less likely to report crimes or cooperate with police, which undermines public safety. The legal reality, 10th Amendment, and federal overreach. Homan's threats to prosecute mayors of sanctuary cities reveal a fundamental misunderstanding of the law. Under the 10th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, the federal government cannot compel states or localities to enforce federal laws. This principle, known as the anti-commandeering doctrine, has been upheld by the Supreme Court in multiple rulings. The key legal case here is Prince v. United States, 1997, where the Supreme Court ruled that the federal government cannot force local officials to carry out federal laws. Immigration enforcement, as the courts have consistently affirmed, is the sole responsibility of the federal government. Section 8 U.S.C. Section 1373, which Homan frequently cites, mandates that local governments cannot prohibit their officials from sharing immigration status information with federal authorities. However, courts have ruled that this section does not require states to actively participate in immigration enforcement. In fact, when the Trump administration attempted to punish sanctuary cities by withholding federal grants, multiple courts blocked the effort, ruling it unconstitutional. What about harboring charges? Homan's invocation of 8 U.S.C. Section 1324, harboring undocumented immigrants, is equally misleading. This law is intended to target individuals or organizations that knowingly and actively conceal undocumented immigrants to evade detection. It does not apply to local governments with sanctuary policies. For example, a city that declines to honor an ICE detainer request is not harboring anyone. It's simply refusing to act as an arm of federal immigration enforcement. Courts have repeatedly rejected attempts to stretch the harboring statute to include sanctuary policies. Homan's misunderstanding of prosecution authority. Another critical flaw in Homan's threats is his misunderstanding of who can prosecute violations of federal law. Homan, as a member of the Department of Homeland Security, DHS, cannot prosecute anyone. Prosecution is the sole responsibility of the Department of Justice, DOJ. This is a key point. DHS can arrest individuals for immigration violations, but any decision to prosecute must come from federal prosecutors at the DOJ. Homan's threats are, at best, bluster aimed at intimidating sanctuary cities and their leaders. Why sanctuary cities actually improve public safety. The rhetoric against sanctuary cities relies on the assumption that undocumented immigrants are inherently criminal. This is not supported by data. Numerous studies have shown that immigrants, both documented and undocumented, commit crimes at lower rates than native-born Americans. Sanctuary policies are not about shielding criminals. Rather, they are about building trust between law enforcement and immigrant communities. When individuals fear that any interaction with police could lead to deportation, they are far less likely to report crimes, serve as witnesses, or assist investigations. This makes communities less safe. For example, cities like San Francisco and New York have long argued that their sanctuary policies improve public safety by encouraging cooperation with law enforcement. The politics behind the threats. So why is Homan making these threats, despite their lack of legal merit? The answer lies in the political strategy of the Trump administration. Sanctuary cities have become a convenient scapegoat in the broader debate over immigration. During his campaign, Trump painted a picture of a country overrun by criminal immigrants and lawless cities. By targeting sanctuary cities, Trump is appealing to his base and reinforcing his narrative of law and order. Homan's threats are part of this effort to demonize immigrants and the cities that refuse to cooperate with Trump's hardline agenda. Tom Homan's threats to prosecute mayors of sanctuary cities are rooted in political posturing, not legal reality. Sanctuary policies are not only legal, but also beneficial to public safety. Courts have repeatedly affirmed that the federal government cannot force states or localities to enforce immigration laws, and the laws Homan cites do not support his claims. The Trump administration's attacks on sanctuary cities are part of a broader disinformation campaign designed to sow fear and division. By portraying immigrants as criminals and sanctuary cities as lawless, Trump and his allies are attempting to justify their draconian immigration policies. In reality, sanctuary cities are a vital part of ensuring public safety for all residents, regardless of immigration status. Homan's bluster may make headlines, but it lacks any legal or moral foundation. As the courts have shown time and again, the rule of law, not fear-mongering, will prevail.